Good evening, you're watching Wire TV on the cable network. Julia Simpson sitting in for John Hammond, and it's time for Livewire. At 10:30 we'll be talking about dyslexia. We'll be joined by a doctor, a member of the Dyslexia Association, and a mother who has suffered, and alongside her offspring, who has also suffered from dyslexia. If you would like to take part in that debate, and also of course air your opinions on our initial debate, which we'll get to in just a sec, our number is 0272 297766. First of all, though, fashion. The catwalks recently in Paris and Milan have been showing the latest collections, and there's been a certain trend coming through of a very sort of young kind of design, a kind of schoolgirl look, basically. Now, our guests this evening, some totally approve of this and some do not. So if I can introduce, first of all, on my left is Liz Lewitt, who is a designer herself and enjoys dressing provocatively, looking extremely racy this evening. She rejects any suggestion that this fashion could have any implications, could encourage sexual assaults or anything like that for young women and children. Next to her, Sheila Chaplin is a barrister who believes that what a person wears can send a very powerful message to other people, more in fact than what they say, and she is worried by the implications of this new fashion trend. On the other side of the table, Margot Jackson is a hypnotherapist who explores the dark corners of the human mind, and we'll find out from her a little later exactly what her viewpoint is. And the token man on my immediate right is Richard Davis. It says in my notes here, a man who loves women.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to find out what you think about the fashion. First of all, Liz, can I ask you, as our sort of, our resident designer, I mean, how do you characterise this kind of trend in the fashions that we've seen in sort of Paris and Milan? Would you call it a schoolgirl look?
Well, I suppose it is, because it's short socks. I've got some images here of some recent things.
I think we've actually, and also if we can go, we have a picture lined up already on our screens. Here we go. This is some pictures taken from Milan and Paris that appeared in the papers recently. Again, the sort of short frocks, the socks, shoes that look very much like what you kind of wear, to school and stuff.
I mean, yes, it could be seen as schoolgirl clothing.
I mean, this one here you've got again. I mean, that's a pretty impossible outfit, isn't it? Those socks and those shoes.
Pretty ludicrous, really, but,
Is this just like the fashion industry recycling an idea?
Well, it is cyclical. I mean, I've got images here from the 1960s of Twiggy. I don't know if the camera can get into them.
Let me show that to...
This is a 1960s image of Twiggy.
Oh, blimey, yes, it's very similar, isn't it?
And then if I've also got an image from the 1970s, which was, well, early 70s. It was a quant number, very nasty. But I mean, again, that's a similar sort of feel, isn't it? And the pose that she's in and the face she's pulling, I think it's a similar sort of look.
When you say, can I just say, before you close the book up, when you say, you're talking about this one here, right?
Yeah.
Yes, when you're saying that's very nasty.
That's just my personal taste.
Are you meaning aesthetically nasty?
Yeah, it's just my personal taste as to the colours and the shape of it and the style.
I mean, do you think that the sort of the catwalks and the fashion industry does make a statement about how society views women?
Yes, it does, but I think that to say that how women dress encourages certain types of behaviour is tackling the problem totally from the wrong angle. We should be looking at how men behave, not saying women dress a certain way, therefore they ask for something.
Okay, let's just sort of deal with the points briefly at this stage. Sheila, can we come to you then? Because as a barrister, you obviously have experience on the sort of criminal side of things. What's your viewpoint?
Well, it's a very long time since I've practiced, and I'm here, I would have thought as a crusty old maid rather than as a barrister. Looking at this.
I would not have cast you in that role.
I would take issue with this about how women dress govern not just men's reactions, but women's reactions, employers' reactions, anybody's reactions. Because people have to sum up other people very quickly. And we all have, the cliches about body language, and people make assumptions about people because of their body language. Well, I would say almost as powerfully, people make assumptions in the way that people dress. So I, as fairly staunch supporter of my sex, reckon that in this matter men we are actually the motor for the way men behave. We are not the reactive sex. It's the men that are the reactive sex, and that their behaviour is wholly, almost wholly, governed by one, how we behave, one, body language and all the rest of it, but also by what we wear. And I think it's wholly wrong of women to pretend that there is a free lunch in these matters, and that they can dress in a certain way and then cry havoc if a man responds in the quite natural way that anybody would if somebody was dressed
All right, then, Sheila, let me just
in a
take it
titillating
across
fashion.
for that. We'll just come in a sec. Also, on the phone, we've got Dane, who is another designer who designs I was what they're called, fetishistic fashions. We'll come to you in just a sec, then, if you can hold with us. Richard, as a man, I mean, we'll have to make it brief because I want to talk to Dane. I don't think he can stay on the phone too long. Do you agree with Sheila? Do you react very strongly to how a woman is dressed?
I think you...
Come on.
You read signals, yeah, of course you read signals to what people dress, but I mean, you can't... people should be allowed to wear whatever they want. I mean, I don't see how... Oh, come on, lighten up now. I mean, it's like... The whole schoolgirl thing, to me, is basically a scam by designers who run out of new ideas. So it's like, what are we going to do? Oh man, let's shock somebody, get our names in the press, and your kind of papers like your Express and your Mail, they fall for it every time.
I agree, but to say that one should be able to dress as one likes and to hell with other people, I think is so unconsiderate.
Why?
I and we have to look at you. Now, I reckon that everyone...
Yeah, but you're not seeing things through my eyes. I have to look at you.
Yes, but I have done my best
just
with
a
the limited
sec?
means at my disposal to make myself as reasonable to look at as I can, given what I've got to start with, so to speak. And I think it is extremely inconsiderate to impose unnecessarily ugly and unattractive images for other people.
whose
That's a
judgment
slightly
are you
different
talking?
argument. Can I just bring Margot? Can I bring you in
You've been talking
briefly,
about
please?
the
At this stage.
assumptions people make, Sheila. I think what's more important than that is the statement that people make in the clothes they wear, and I think they do. They make a statement with everything they wear, and they should be allowed to make that statement. I mean, your argument is similar to the one that says women get raped at night, therefore women must stay home at night. And I don't go along with that either.
Or she was wearing a short skirt, she asked for it. I mean, that's just, I find that really demeaning
I think that
to my sex,
it's
because it
very
means it's like
interesting, this.
everybody goes round, I see a girl in a short skirt, going to leap on
Absolutely.
that, and that's just crap.
Okay, can we bring Dane in at this point, please? Reassert my authority here. Dane, you're on the line. You are organiser of Alternative Fashion Week, which happened in London, and you're a designer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a picture, if we can bring it up, of a couple of your outfits.
How do I get to see this picture?
You'll have to lean over and have a peer. Here we go. You can see it now. Pretty, what you might call statement kind of fashion. I mean, Dane, what's your opinion? How do you think people react to women dressed in your kind of outfits?
Well, I mean, most of the actual women who wear my stuff, I mean, they do that by choice. I've used the models that have modelled for me are all friends or people that I've met in clubs, and when I've asked them to model, they've been only too pleased to do so. That they enjoy it. They're strong women. They don't do that to be particularly sexually alluring to everybody. They want to look the way they want to look. And
Yeah, but Dane, isn't it true to say people just get a kick out of dressing up, which is basically what everybody does?
exactly.
And what's wrong with that?
Nothing. It's just don't ever forget that you dressed up as kids to play. Why can't we carry on doing it now?
But man and woman isn't an island, and we exist in society. And, the current cliche about the caring society, and we bother about each other. So we should, therefore, be considerate to the people that we meet.
But how
And
often
not-
have you ever seen anybody who were wearing those kind of clothes of a Saturday afternoon shopping?
Never.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I mean,
If
the thing
people want to
is
wear it to go clubbing, it's cool.
This is
Dane?
party wear then, isn't it? Is that right?
Oh, that's party wear, is it?
think it
Yeah,
must be.
Dane, come back in on this one, would you?
Yes, I mean, that's the whole point, is that people will wear, unfortunately, people will wear those clothes in an environment where it's acceptable to a certain, they'll go to a club where they're not going to get hassled. I mean, I personally find that very sad, that we govern our dress styles by other people's violence, by the reaction other people may have to the way we look. I mean, that's really sad, because there's no reason for anybody to become violent because you've decided to go out in a swimsuit or whatever you go out in the middle of the day. If you go on holiday, girls walk around in bikinis and there's not mass rape on the beaches and things. You know, you're seeing more there. If anyone's going to do it, then because of the clothing, they can see more of what they'd actually like to
But
rape.
the images in your designs,
situations.
Dane, echo sort of sadomasochistic kind of outfits and stereotypes, don't they?
Well, I don't think so, actually. I mean, the show, you haven't got anything in colour there, really. You see, most of my clothes are bright and they're tartan fabrics and things. It's not really. I mean, it is based on those looks, except that I suppose sadomasochism is based on one of our most puritanical periods of the Victorian era when all these things were completely hidden.
And they weren't any saints either, were they?
A lot of the
But
references come
hypocrisy
from times
acknowledges
that
a
people look
standard.
at as very pure, as very Puritan. So I don't really think that that's involved in my clothes.
Was Alternative Fashion Week all about this kind of stuff?
No, it's a platform for young designers really who to put on a proper catwalk show. It's funded by the Alternative Arts, and all we have to do is organise our clothes and our models, and they put a catwalk on. They put the whole event on, so it enables you to actually do a show which you wouldn't actually be able to afford to do yourself without having your own perfume, maybe, or a few more sales or a line of makeup, or even just selling more clothes. It's just a way of getting in on presenting your clothes how you'd like to see them.
What's your view of the sort of the schoolgirl kind of image that we've seen in sort of Paris and Milan in the last few
I mean,
weeks?
I don't mind that at all. I don't find that shocking. I think some girls look incredibly nice in those clothes, and if they want to wear that, I think it's an acceptable look. It's not something that I particularly bother with, but I just don't see the problem that people have with the way other people want to present themselves in public. I'd probably get more offended by mass conformity, walking down into the city and seeing loads of guys in suits, because I'd actually want to know what they'd really like to be wearing that day, rather than what they have to try and appear normal. I just think it's a shame people can't express themselves, and they have to try and adhere to some, old-fashioned vision of normality, which doesn't really exist in my book.
To draw a really strange parallel, we're saying to people in Yugoslavia, happy killing each other, look, be more tolerant to each other. Yet here we can't even wear clothes people want to wear. And then,
exactly.
we're preaching tolerance in one respect, but then you come down like a ton of bricks because somebody wants to wear what they want to wear.
Let's get things in perspective. Nobody stops anybody wearing anything or wearing practically nothing. in
Maybe
this
you've never
country.
been attacked for
So
something
there
that
is
someone finds
absolutely
visually offensive.
complete tolerance. What I thought we were talking about is what is desirable or undesirable in society.
In your
because
eyes,
we're
I
talking
think,
about
design.
in
Personal
society.
choice, it's totally
I
personal
think that's
choice then.
your vision of society. We don't all have to live in the same world that you see. I can't. I'm actually on the phone. I don't know who anyone is here. But, I mean, you really do have your vision of the world. I have mine. I'm trying to create my world around me by presenting clothes for people to wear that I'd like to look at, and if they sell, that's great. There are enough people out there who agree with me, so.
Well,
I'm sure it worked for you, and I'm just trying to make it work for me.
I think the worry, correct me if I'm wrong, Sheila, but I don't know if Sheila totally represents this standard. The worry is the reaction that some of these clothes do create in some men. And if
but the word "some" is actually the most important word there. Is some men. People say that it's the woman's fault if something happens. If a woman wants to go out in a short skirt and she looks attractive, that's fine. If it was a case that caused rape, then everybody who saw her on that evening that she got raped would have raped her. It's only some guys. What you need to look at is the way men are brought up in
Some
society.
guys have a higher libido than others.
It's not even that. Some people have less self-control than others. It's nothing to do with that. I know people with very, very active sex lives who don't go out and rape and kill. It's nothing to do with libido. It's to do with lack of self-control and understanding and tolerance towards other people.
I think what's interesting about what Dane does and what a lot of people are doing within the fetish scene as well is that it's a lot of the time it's men playing around with this sort of imagery as well, cross-dressing and experimenting with all different ways of dressing and stereotypes and roles, and it is really exciting.
Yeah, I mean
to see people.
Again, that's something that to me is totally inoffensive, because we actually invented all styles of clothes anyway. You're born naked. Men weren't around when the clothes were given out, so if they want to wear whatever they want to wear, that should be absolutely fine. They're not. I know a lot of transvestites. I mean, I wear a lot of my clothes myself, and sometimes are perceived as that by people who don't really understand it. I think of it as clothes. it's me decorating my body, which is a male body, in a more elaborate way. It's nothing to do with wanting to be a woman or dressing up as one.
Okay.
Yeah.
For now, Jane, thank you very much.
Okay.
What do you think? The YTV viewer, short skirts, knee-high socks, leather. What's your opinion, good or bad? Give us a call 0272 297766. If I can turn back to you again, Liz. I mean, the outfit you've got on tonight, is that something you would wear anytime, any place, or is this a
quite
special?
happily. I mean, I would go teaching. I think to an extent I've been spoilt because I've always been self-employed or I've always worked within fashion, so I've always been able to dress how I pleased. And I don't choose to be deliberately provocative. I don't look at my wardrobe and think, oh, what can I wear to wind people up? It's just the way I like dressing.
What kind of reactions do you get from men, though?
I don't know really, because I don't notice. I don't pay any
can't.
attention. I don't.
But you're
I don't.
missing so much.
If somebody is ludicrous enough to, I mean,
At your age, that's exactly what you should be bothered about.
why?
Well,
I don't want to
you're
be
missing a lot of fun.
I don't know. I have fun in my own context. I don't.
It's bad on the
I
other.
don't. I
I've
don't.
never said fun
Excuse
is
me. Can I just finish
bad.
speaking? I don't want to walk around and be shrieked at. So, I want to be. If people like what I'm wearing and they come up and say, "I like what you're wearing," fine. But I don't.
You get whistled at or
I just
anything,
find it
that's-
immensely irritating having inane comments,
It's so
and that happens whatever you
disrespectful as
wear.
well.
You get inane comments shouted at you whatever you wear. So
But
it
you're
actually
not
doesn't
wearing
really
this
make-
style anyway. We were talking about this style to start with, this mini skirty thing. I mean, it's this far cry from what Liz is wearing. In fact, it's saying almost the opposite, I would say. I think that it's very interesting what that is saying, and it's very reminiscent of the 60s, and Twiggy and anorexia and not wanting to grow up and so on. And I think from that point of view, I think every fashion is making some kind of a statement, and if it's taken up and made popular, becomes popular because people buy it, then lots of people are wanting to say whatever that is saying.
But how many of these?
I wonder what this is really
This style
saying.
of clothing you're going to see on the high
I was going
street.
to ask you
think
about
it's
that. How
gonna
much
get
of this
more
will
popular.
filter down, in fact?
Well, I mean,
I don't
I
think it
can't see
will.
many women I know wearing
I mean,
ankle
how
socks.
many women do you know
Don't
who
you?
are 6
Don't
foot
you?
tall
Really?
and a size 12? And because they look good in it, they're paid to look
But,
good in it.
Yeah.
but I mean, that
But your average
applies.
woman in the street, I don't think
That
going to wear
applies
it.
to every fashion, and then the next principle and so on filters it down so that it does just become wearable and even, very easy on the eye,
It's
because
modified.
that is what my definition of what clothes should be. And so this will become, in fact, a bit more wearable. Although I must say, I think these are difficult styles for a grown, mature woman
But they're not
I think in
aimed
a way
at
pretend.
They're not aimed at
that-
at the older market, are
I
they?
think
No,
in
but
fact,
a mature woman as 21, 22,
Absolutely.
to pretend to be 10 years younger,
Why
I think
not?
I was going to say, I think one is difficult, and two is slightly odd, because I think it's not actually normal to want to regress to what is described in here as prepubescence. And I think that is a bit rather like somebody who goes gaga and starts sucking their thumb and becomes.
But I would disagree. I think if somebody wants to do whatever, then why not?
They
I think as an
can,
adult,
yeah.
if they're choosing to do what they do, they're not harming anybody, and anybody else they involve is giving consent, then there's no
What's
problem.
the
I think it's
problem?
when you start
You're
dressing
absolutely right.
children as adults, that's when I think it's dodgy.
But it
And
is
when-
interesting to think about what are people saying with what they wear, and I think if it becomes a trend and very widespread, then a lot of people are saying it, and I think this is a little bit disturbing. What that is saying to me is a little bit disturbing.
regression.
Yes, and the interesting thing is that schoolgirls actually wouldn't wear them.
Oh, well.
Who would wear them? It's in the 60s. I remember hot pants, which were, to me, they looked like what you dress 3-year-olds in. The bib and the little shorty things.
Hey,
And in fact-
lederhosen.
Yes, they were. And people
Enough
were
of your
talking then
rhetoric.
about grown women looking like schoolgirls, and actually I didn't know one single schoolgirl. Most schoolgirls are terribly shy about their bodies. Terribly shy.
But fashion now is
It's
virtually
only when you get to
everything
20
is
that you stop
retro,
being
isn't
shy.
it?
Yeah,
And
it's
music,
okay, that is.
vehicles, fashion, you name it. I mean,
It's all retro.
everybody's
Yeah.
looking backwards at the moment at things.
Well, everything's cyclical. it's always like just being
everything
weird.
goes round, comes around.
I can't remember which designer, but they were sort of like silver kids space suits and things. That wasn't retro.
All that.
No, we're talking
Chelsea.
about that. I'm talking about what we're
Yes.
looking at there.
Oh, yeah.
The whole
yes.
idea of sort of staying young is one thing, but
Yes.
it does slightly worry me, the sort of
Yes.
super waif thing. I think we've got a picture
Absolutely.
which we
Very
may be able to show you
distressing.
of Kate Moss, the current Ralph Lauren campaign, and we can show that. Can we show that? Which is very much the super waif. Here we got it here. She looks. It's a kind of like a
Here's Katie.
school uniform with stockings. I mean, that is. I do find that slightly wrong. This idea of women staying as girls.
Yes.
In
If
the
it
sense of
requires
being suggested that
incredibly
this is
thin,
a good thing to be.
I actually don't see it as being worrying,
I think
because
that's her natural shape, isn't it? I mean, the
but
girl
it's
is just
also
tall
to do
and
with the
skinny.
context,
That's
isn't
okay,
it, and
fine,
time and
yeah.
place
Yeah.
of something.
Can I report on a bit of
Go on, then.
research that I did today on this matter? And I asked a number of friends of mine, male friends, whether they'd seen the pictures of the fashion shows and the schoolgirl fashions and so on, etc., and what did they think of it? And, you know, did it make them perhaps eye schoolgirls or young girls a bit more attentively than they would have done otherwise? And I found it very interesting that the nice guys of my acquaintance, with pretty well without exception, said they'd all noticed the legs in the pictures.
Mixing with the wrong circle, isn't it?
And they all noticed legs, good legs, you know, when they saw them. But really, no, because if they were going to be interested, it would be with somebody more experienced, and they would like, you know, the experience. But the more depraved of my acquaintances, and I'm just hoping that none of them are just watching at this moment, equally, almost without exception, said yes. Now, I think, was it Oscar Wilde or somebody who
He wasn't interested in
who
girls.
said that that innocence was of tremendous charm and attraction to the depraved, and it's the attraction of the opposites. Am I right in this, Margaret?
Can I just
And-
can we please just stop a minute? We've got a couple of callers. Can we take Tom, please? Tom in Wigan?
Good evening to you.
Hi, Tom. What's your opinion?
I started with some opinions on this and have changed them as discussions have gone on in various
You're not the only
places.
one.
Get off the fence, Tom.
Go on, fire away.
I thought at first, yes, this is a bit iffy. This is perhaps attracting a minority and rather dangerous fringe of the male proportion of the population into dreaming dreams they shouldn't dream, and perhaps even carrying it through to actions. But I've thought further, and I think the first thing that changed my view is that this is trend. This is not fashion. This is pushing the limits. This is, I think, a rightful statement. And I think it's very good that the questions which have come out, if they've come out, and that things that you wouldn't normally discuss are now discussable because of it.
Well, do you think we can clear a lot more things up if we talk about it rather than keep it taboo?
I don't think there are many forums where you would actually start thinking about talking on television about men who like little girls or something.
True.
Good point. Okay, we've also got, thank you very much, Tom. We've also got John
Maurice Chevalier.
on the line. John, I'm not sure where you're calling from. Sorry, I didn't. Hi, John from London.
Yeah, I would like to ask Liz Lewitt, I think her name is, what she feels about real schoolgirls having to wear uniform rather than young women wearing it as a fashion accessory. Don't you think you're putting a very you're putting something onto these young girls who cannot handle that kind of situation?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think?
I mean, I think it's unfortunate that schoolgirls have to wear a certain uniform without having any choice.
Well, you think that's unfortunate, but in many cases that's compulsory.
Yeah.
And you use fashion as to get older women to dress in that way. Now, don't you think that men are going to be very confused as to who is wearing it as a fashion accessory and who is wearing
I think it comes down to. I think it should come down. Yeah, I was going to say. I think it should come down to common
Bigger than
sense,
that,
really, and that
Does
you
it?
just know
That's true.
what age somebody is and what you do and you don't do. I mean, to me, it is just so clear cut,
Absolutely.
and I think it's just codes of behaviour in society
but I
that
mean,
people don't.
People say nurses' uniforms and things, and policewomen's uniforms. And what are you going to do? Stop people wearing anything at all because 1 or 2% of the population, or 0.1% of the population,
What's
might be
wrong with the
slightly
nurses'
unhappy?
No.
It's the type of thing where it gets.
I
Fetishised.
don't
Yeah,
think Paul
yeah.
is saying that we
Could
shouldn't
you
wear uniforms.
distinguish between a 16-year-old wearing a school uniform and a 19-year-old wearing a school uniform? In many
They're not
cases, you
school
couldn't.
uniforms.
Well, these aren't school uniforms.
No,
Such. I mean, they
very
are.
different.
It's like somewhat in the style of, and they're kind of young, girlish, but they're not. Can I? Thank you very much, John. Can I just come to you for a sec, Margot? In your experience as a hypnotherapist, I mean, how much link is there between clothes and sexual
I would
violence?
say
or
none
problems
at
of that
all,
kind?
but I might be wrong. In my experience, none at all. I mean, I've know that women of 90 get raped, and I know that babies of 3 get raped, and I really don't think it's to do with what they were wearing. I think it's to do only with if people are going to abuse people, then they're going to abuse people. They're not really going to abuse people only if they're showing their legs.
We've got one final call. It'll have to be quick. Kevin, are you on the line? Hello, Kevin.
Hello.
Hiya. Briefly, state your point of view, please, Kevin.
Well, I think basically what's been said this evening, especially by Sheila, is that her views are out of date. with the
I'm out of date.
Oh
today.
dear.
What in particular?
Well, the way she's saying that the way that people are dressing and the way that she thinks that people should dress.
All I've said is that I think it's more considerate to other people if men and women try and dress in a way that makes the best of themselves, to be literally as easy on the eye as possible.
It's very subjective.
How do you
this.
define?
Well, how do you?
paper bags or something. I don't know.
I think, and I must say, I think Liz looks fantastic.
She's great.
I wish I could wear it myself.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, but
On the other hand,
I quite
if
agree.
If you went abroad to a country where, as I've done, and we all have, no doubt, a country where the local women do not show their legs, etc., then I think you're right. It would be very inconsiderate indeed to walk down their equivalent of the high street wearing a miniskirt, and you wouldn't do it, I hope. None of us would do it. In that, you do respect the views of the majority in those sort of ways. But on the other hand, as well, if you're to just stick to the middle ground and be terribly safe all the time, we're never going to get anything
I'm
exciting.
terribly afraid. We actually don't have time to kind of continue that, I'm afraid to say. Thank you very much, Liz. Love the outfit. Thank you, Sheila. I don't think you're an old fogey at all. Margot, thank you. And Rich, thank you. Thank you.
Wear Oxford or die.
Thank you for being our token man.
It was a
Right,
tough
second
one.
half of Livewire coming up after the break, talking on the altogether more serious subject of dyslexia. Keep the calls coming in, 0272 297766. That's our number here at Livewire, YTV on the cable network.
Boxing. The gloves come off on Wire TV as the canvas ring's kingmaker Barry Hearn steps forward to present the best up-and-coming boxing talent in Britain today. Yes, the man behind Chris Eubank, Herbie Hyde, Carl Crook and Jim McDonnell presents the battling stars of the future, while Barry McGuigan provides the expert blow-by-blow commentary on the hopefuls' bid for the big time. Make a date for your ringside seat when our Golden Gloves boxing specials open in Edinburgh at 8 p.m. Thursday, 31st of March, here on Wire. Basketball. Wire TV brings you the best in ball play in 3 one-hour specials from Sheffield Arena. We follow the Chrysalis National Basketball Finals, the Men's National Cup Final, the Women's National Cup Final, and the Men's National Trophy Final. The Chrysalis National Basketball Finals, soon on Wire TV. Coming soon on Wire TV, Robert Guillaume as a divorced, resourceful marriage counsellor.
I bet you just want to grab all of them and hug them and take off their clothes and tell them everything will be over.
A family man.
William.
Dad.
Only 3 people in the whole world know this recipe. The other 2 died.
The Robert Guillaume Show, soon on Wire TV. Free Spirit.